This episode contains explicit language. If you have kids around, we'd suggest using headphones, or if you don't like that language yourself, this may be an episode to skip. We've decided to keep it in because, frankly, it's how we talk.
Welcome to the Real Chili Podcast.
And the Golden Eagles of Marquette University in Milwaukee are bound for the Final Four for only the third time ever.
5 seconds left. Marquette down by one, trying to avoid the upset. Blue the drive, the left hand. It's good. 1 second to play. Vander Blue has put Marquette in front by one.
And I want to win every day as basketball players, as students, and I want to win every day, most importantly, as people.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real Chili Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lavender, joined by my good buddy, Pete Neighborworth. How you doing, neighbor?
Mike, just reminiscing back to January 15th, which was the last time Marquette got a victory before this evening's game. It felt like a while. 23 days when you don't get a win. Wojo probably and the Marquette squad saved any chance they had at the NCAA tournament and win tonight's game.
Heading into tonight, Marquette had 7 games left on its regular season schedule.
I like listening to you count those in your head.
And 2 of those were road games, one against Seton Hall tonight, and the other quality road games, and the other against number 20, Creighton. This was a must-win game for Marquette, and I think there's been a lot of conversation over the past few days, certainly since we lost to Providence, which was a terrible home loss. There's been a lot of conversation about Wojo, about his coaching ability. There's been a lot of conversation around our defense. All of those things have been swirling, but what it really came down to was that if we wanted to play into the tournament this year, we had to start by going to Seton Hall and getting a road win. And absent all the other conversations, this team did that. They pulled their head out of their ass, and they did that and got a big win on the road.
That was a lot in there, Mike. A couple points that you mentioned. I don't think Providence was a terrible home loss. Yeah, I think we played terrible in that game.
Yeah.
But Providence is a good team, a likely NCAA tournament team. It was just unfortunate that we had to lose the back end of our third game in a row to them. Against Seton Hall tonight, I should clarify, I still did think, even if Marquette did lose this game tonight, that they could make the NCAA tournament now.
Through the Big East tournament?
The caveat being, hey, we have no margin for error against any of our remaining lesser opponents in the Big East, Georgetown, St. John's, who just beat Villanova, by the way, and Duke this weekend, and DePaul. Or, sorry, we beat DePaul twice. No, we have DePaul coming up on, the 24th. Yeah. So what this victory does tonight on the road against a very solid Seton Hall team is give us that margin of error if we do slip up against one of those teams. So obviously, we're all praying that we don't, but that's why this victory tonight on the road was so huge for Marquette's NCAA chances.
So we'll get to the big picture conversation. We'll revisit that a little bit later on, but let's get into the game a little bit against Seton Hall. Again, this was an 88-85 victory for Marquette on the road. Seton Hall hit a buzzer, a 3 at the buzzer that was meaningless, so they tacked on an extra 3, which gave them 85 instead of 82. To me, Pete, we were talking about this a little bit before we hopped on. There were so many moments in this game where people who we consider to be role players, Matt Helt, Sakara Nim, where in particular those 2 guys stepped up and had big moments. And I think I want to start with this. I thought the defensive play of these 3 guys, of Sam Hauser, Matt Helt, and Harry Froling in spots, was really terrific on Angel Delgado and other bigs for Seton Hall. They didn't give him an easy shot all night, and that helped us stay in the game even as it got close down the stretch.
Mike, get the Rat Helt superstar costume into production after tonight. That's all I got to say. Matt Helt won his job back, I think, resoundingly.
Got the start.
And what a performance by him. I think he probably had to come out with a chip on his shoulder, having not gotten very much minutes the last few games against good teams. He's used to getting up pretty much all the minutes up until this point, until this losing streak. And both on defense, like you said, against Delgado, and offensive and defensive rebounding, being in the right spot, getting clutch rebounds, hitting 2 clutch free throws with 10 seconds left to put us up by 4. What a game by him. What a game by Helter Skelter. We can start calling him Lucifer now that he seems to be Angel's foil. Can't say enough about Matt Helt's game. I mean, I could. He also missed those 2
bunnies. He missed those 2 bunnies.
Awful layups. And Sakar was huge too. The clutch layup down the stretch, had a great first half. Cutting, slashing. Actually made a 3. Made a running shot in the lane. So if he can continue to develop those skills, we need somebody. We need that fourth option, because we've seen what happens, especially in the half court set, when Rousey and Howard are just dribbling the ball and can't get any penetration and jack up bad shots. If we have another weapon out there in addition to Sam Hauser for one of those 2 to pass the ball, that makes us that much more dangerous.
I just want to make sure I give my due love to Matt Helt. You mentioned hitting those 2 clutch free throws. Yes, he did have those 2 bunny misses. He got, when we're after the under 4 timeout, Helt got a couple of huge rebounds, which allowed us to reset, get a new shot clock. We didn't necessarily cash in, but huge rebounds from Helt down low. And I love your point about Sakar. I think Sakar, maybe his shot doesn't look the prettiest, right?
I've seen worse.
Yeah, seen worse, probably. Yeah. But Sakar's a basketball player. He knows where to put himself on the court. He knows how to make these cuts to get himself open. And that allowed him in this game to finish with 15 points. And when you have guys like Helt putting up 10 points, Sakar putting up 15 points, that means that we don't need to rely so heavily on Rousey and Howard to get the job done. So this emergence of kind of some of these role players has been impressive. Hopefully it can continue.
And they understand their role. Yeah. Sakar doesn't take forced shots. He takes shots at the rim when he's slashing and when he gets in a wide open look. And that's what he needs to do. And he's done a very good job of understanding that. And Helt too. And the thing about Helt, Raftery mentioned this in like the latter portion of the game, Helt did a great job of arm-barring Delgado down low when a missed shot took place, allowing other members of Marquette, his teammates, to get those rebounds. And that is a huge part of his game that he has. He's got that IQ to do that, whereas Harry Froling, and this is the reason why Wojo didn't put Froling in the game hardly. I mean, he got I don't know. He probably had like 12 minutes, something like that. Yeah. But that's why Helt was in the game, because Helt knows how to play Delgado. And that was a wonderful, small, little nuanced tactic to kind of pin him whenever you can, whenever you think you might not be in position to get a rebound yourself, to pin Delgado no matter where he's at, allowing your teammates to get the rebound. He did a great job of that.
I mean, it's so amazing to me that we live in a world where Matt Helt is the kryptonite to Angel Delgado. I mean, if you had said that, it's just fucking unbelievable to me. But he's proven it a couple of different times. Angel Delgado, the leading rebounder in the Big East, double-double machine. We didn't allow him a double-double. He finished with 11 and 7 tonight. That's well below his average.
Great.
That's well below his average in rebounding and well below his average in points. He averages 13.5 points and 12 rebounds. So Helt and those Hauser and Froling did a terrific job. I want to transition a bit to the backcourt and talk a little bit about what I saw from Howard and Rousey. I thought there were a lot of factors that went into this 4-game losing streak in addition to quality opponents. But I think some of the things that went in was the play from Marcus and the play from Andrew Rousey. And I thought in this game, they consistently, there were lapses, but consistently in this game, they were both poised, they were both controlled, and there were moments when you kind of saw them wanting to kick it into 6th gear and start going, and they put up a couple of bad shots, but by and large, they were looking to distribute and not shoot first, but get their teammates involved and look for a better shot.
I think that's a great point. I think that's 100% accurate. They didn't force any shots. They attacked the rim where they could. And I was kind of confused. I always want to call him Fred Willard now, Seton Hall's coach, just because I think it would be pretty great if Fred Willard had a stint as the basketball coach at Seton Hall. But Kevin Willard, he played this form, and I only heard it from the timeout when he mentioned ice, which is Tom Thibodeau's brainchild of this version of pick and roll defense, where the guy defending the man with the ball kind of dictates where the ball goes, and the help side guy kind of sags off. And they were doing that, but I thought that was to their disadvantage, because when you look at Providence and Villanova, these teams that beat us, the way they beat us was by not allowing any penetration by Howard and Rousey and forcing us to take bad shots. They kind of, by sagging off, I thought they allowed Howard and Rousey to get into the lane to create more open shots for each other and also themselves.
So we should just make sure when we're talking about this to give Marcus Howard some love. He finished with 32 points, perfect from the free throw line, 9 of 13 from the field, 4 of 6 from the three-point line, a terrific scoring performance in offensive output, only 2 turnovers, so a terrific game from Marcus Howard.
Yeah, he was awesome, and 7 rebounds too.
7 rebounds, and it doesn't hurt that the team shot 63% from 3 for the night. That doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and 87% from the free throw, while Seton Hall shot 61.
I mean,
so
that's
a pretty critical factor. But no, Howard was awesome, and I loved him attacking more instead of doing that kind of step back 3, which he likes to do all the time. If he can attack more often, that 3 is going to be there, because they were also pressing close up to him, which allowed that too, which I thought was interesting. But Howard getting to the free throw line is huge for us, because obviously he's the best free throw shooter in the country.
So here's a question, and I do not know the answer to this, but I'm genuinely curious what you think. Clearly we struggled over the past 4 games, and we lost all of them, and even before that we were struggling. Do you think the transformation that needs to happen, and maybe started to happen tonight against Seton Hall, is Wojo pounding it into the heads of Rousey and Howard that if they can get their teammates involved in the right situations more, that we have a better chance to win? Is that a fair assessment for where we need to continue to go on offense? I mean, I thought that Rousey and Howard, they're talented, and rightly so, they're ball dominant, but you see what can happen when we share the ball. Is that a thing Wojo needs to be pushing going forward?
Well, I think definitely. I know we don't have that many weapons on offense.
Right.
We basically have 3, and Jamal can hit outside shots. Obviously, Anim has shown a lot of improvement cutting and slashing. But I just think that's a fundamental aspect of basketball. Ball movement is pivotal for any team that wants to be successful. I mean, look at Villanova. Yeah, they have 5 very talented offensive players, but the ball moves.
Yeah.
And if Howard and Rousey can do that a little more, then I think that's obviously going to be a boon for us. But the thing I noticed in tonight's game, kind of getting to that, is that right off the bat, Wojo pushed the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he told them guys to push the ball in transition. Push, push, push. And even when we did get to half court, we were getting into our sets quickly. Mm-hmm. There was constant motion right off the bat, dribble handoff with Rousey and Howard cutting around the 3-point line. That's the kind of stuff, because if we sit back, we're a piss poor
ISO
half court team.
Yeah.
Because we have no isolation players.
Yeah.
I mean, Howard is one, but then he gets to the rim and he gets, just as Brian Henry likes to say, volleyball spiked everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that transition game and getting into our offensive sets was a big key in tonight's win.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think kind of complementing that is they showed the willingness, and maybe I already mentioned this, but they particularly Rousey and Howard showed the willingness to wait for the shot clock to get down to 10 rather than 20 seconds, 20 seconds left in the shot clock. They've got an open 3. They're going to jack it up. Wait an extra 10 seconds. See what opens up. Run the defense down. Let's do that. So a huge win for Marquette on the road, a win that this team, in my opinion, had to have to get into the NCAA tournament. You thought we still had an outside shot. I think both cases are plausible. But now
It was a lot better.
Yeah. So now, about 3 days from now, on Saturday, February 10th, Marquette heads to New York to play the hottest team in the country, as you mentioned.
Oh, yeah,
to play
definitely.
a St. John's team that has beat, in the past week, number 5 Duke and number 1 Villanova as of just a few minutes ago. It's unbelievable that this is the way the timing works out. St. John's is winless in the Big East, and all of a sudden they've racked up 2 of the biggest wins in the country right before we come to town.
I can't explain it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you're looking for me for any wisdom there, I don't have any fucking clue. Shamori Pons, I guess, has been playing out of his ass. I mean, he's been great. He's been great all year. But 26-5 again tonight at Villanova. I really don't know how the fuck they've done it.
Stepping away from the St. John's game and recognizing that is a tough game, I think, in my opinion, we have to go 6-1 down the stretch here. Or I'm sorry, 5-1 down the stretch here. I think we can only afford one more loss, and in my opinion, that cannot come on the road at Creighton. I think that is a game we have to have in order to get into the NCAA tournament. But stepping back from that, neighbor, over this 4-game losing streak where Marquette lost to Xavier, Villanova, the game that we were at, Butler, and Providence, there's a lot of gnashing of teeth from the Marquette faithful, and I think a lot of it is warranted. I kind of want to get your take on where you stand with Wojo after that 4-game stretch. For me, I think Wojo has done some really impressive things in turning the program around, getting momentum, getting recruits in the building, getting talent back on the roster. But I still have questions about his in-game coaching and how he's motivating his team. And that's kind of what I see in this 4-game stretch. What do you see?
I don't want to make excuses for the guy. I think he has had a pretty good season overall. And obviously we know he's a highly character guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a huge character guy. And he's getting the recruits. We made it to the tournament last year. We're on the cusp this year. If we talked about it before the losing streak, we weren't really even considering him being a possibility of not wanting him anymore or firing him, letting him go, whatever. Right. I think we played 4 really good teams.
Yeah.
And it sucks that 3 of those came at home and we lost all of them, including a major blowout to Butler, which is very, very disappointing game, obviously.
Yeah.
But he's also kind of at the mercy of the talent that he currently has, and those 4 teams are experienced athletic teams. Xavier, Villanova, Butler, Providence, all those guys have powerful seniors, experienced, talented seniors. And I think that's just a huge stretch in the season. It was just a gauntlet, as we used to say in the old Big East. I want to look at the bigger picture outside of 4 games against teams with superior talent. I think that's right. What it was.
A lot of people would quibble with the point you made that he is hostage to the talent that he has on the roster. What I would say in response to that is, of course, he is responsible for the talent that he has on the roster.
Sure.
But we have a young team, and unless he's going to go out and get 3 grad transfers and all of a sudden we're a senior-laden team.
Right.
The one thing that Wojo cannot have fixed already, that's not proper grammar, is the fact that we're a young team. That's right. Just where we are right now. When I look back at those 4 games, I think the major mistake, and again, no inside information, of course, this is a Pop the Trunk production, I think they sold out Wojo and the program. I think they sold out for that Villanova game. I think they went balls to the wall. They wanted to win that game.
Yeah.
They thought they could do it again. And then you come back a few days later and you just get torched by Butler at home. So I think that's Wojo's fault, right? That is a risk to put so much on that Villanova game and have your team deflated when they lose by 3.
Yeah.
And so the management of the team's psyche within this 4-game stretch, I think, is a huge factor. It's not just talent. We saw Marquette beat Providence. We competed with Butler. It's management of 18 to 21-year-old kids and how they think. That's such a huge part of it.
Sure, and that's a great point, Mike. I hadn't really thought of that blowout loss to Butler like that. But it's like we talked about it with Andrew Goldstein, which will be published in that pod soon. I'm sure.
Yep.
I'm sure, right?
Yes.
But that Villanova game, our victory against Villanova was our one signature moment in the Wojo era that we could hang our hat on and use to promote getting people back to the Bradley Center and getting people more into this Marquette team. So it's hard to blame them for that, but I think you are right that we probably did go above and beyond in focusing on that game, and there definitely was a letdown the next time out.
As we mentioned earlier, Marquette next plays on Saturday, February 10th, a road game in New York against St. John's. So down the rest of the stretch, we've got 6 games left, 2 against St. John's, 2 against Creighton, and then 1 against DePaul and 1 against Georgetown. That's our slate coming up. It's a winnable slate. It's a slate where if we play like we did tonight, I think we've got a shot to get in the tournament. I think this team, if they can consistently do what they've done, what they did tonight, in how they control the offense, in the effort they give on defense, we're a force to be reckoned with. And I know I'm going to get shot down by a lot of people for saying that after the 4-game stretch. But fuck you. I think that's accurate.
It just sucks that we can't play Seton Hall every game because we said the exact same thing after our home blowout of Seton Hall, and then we had the DePaul game and then that big losing streak. I just wanted to make one quick point again, kind of reverting back to our previous talk about Wojo and the youth on the roster. All of our best athletes on the team are freshmen, sophomores. Yeah. And mostly freshmen. We saw what Theo John did against Providence. 10 points or almost a double-double with 5 blocks. Mm-hmm. He didn't get a minute tonight, and I think that was a great call by Wojo just because of matchups. And Helt obviously came through with a big performance against Delgado. So that is one thing. If anybody's looking at, still pissed off at Wojo, just... that maneuver right there, you can satiate you for now.
Yeah, and look, being pissed off at Wojo is a natural response. One of the reasons we don't record pods immediately after losses is because that's when your emotion gets in the way and you need to see the picture for what it really is. I think they're still fighting this team. We saw that tonight again. Yeah. It was against Seton Hall. It was against the Kevin Willard coach team. So maybe there's an asterisk by it. But this team's still got a shot. I think we both feel that way. Yeah. Let's see what we do against St. John's.
Yeah, of course. And we can't have a letdown game against St. John's. I mean, clearly.
God, I can't take losing to St. John's. That's
clearly. And yeah, I don't know if it's good or bad that we're facing them after beating Duke and Villanova. Now that they have some confidence that they can, like Bubbles said in our text chain, they're thinking that they can beat anybody, or if we'd rather play them while they were still 0-11 in conference. I guess we don't want to. I'm glad that Villanova was their first one, because we didn't want to be their first one. So we can look at that as a positive. But they're a long athletic team. That's the kind of team that gives Marquette trouble. If they play solid team defense, their offense is obviously improving, but they have the length and the athletes that could give us problems for sure.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here this evening for the Real Chili podcast. We'll be coming back to you soon, obviously. Pete, you mentioned we got a pod upcoming that we already recorded with Andrew Goldstein. A good discussion we had about Marquette fan attendance and interest in men's basketball. And then we've got part 2 of the Jarrell McNeil pod. So both of those will be coming to you soon. Pete, thanks for hopping on.
Mike.
Good pod.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to go have some tea with honey, something that Wojo should be doing nonstop.
Oh, yeah, man. That guy needs his throat needs some help. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Real Chili podcast. Signing off for Pete Worth and everyone that puts in work to this pod. I'm your host, Mike Lavender. We'll talk to you next time here on the Real Chili podcast.
Y'all take care.